There are many truths in the Bible that transcend all of the scripture. And one of those is what I want to teach today. But first, let me tell you what I mean by that. There are people today that want to tell you don't read the Old Testament because we're not under the law, we're under grace. And they forget that there's a lot of principles back there in the Mosaic law that transcend the law. They were before the law, during the law, and they're also very much a part of Jesus' teaching and the new covenant. For instance, loving God. There is but one God. Tithing. These things were practiced before the law. They were incorporated into the law because it's part of man's normal relationship with God. And they continue after the law in the fulfillment of the law. So there are truths that transcend. And one of those truths is the idea of the sowing of seed. Now, the world often teaches us that our offering takes on significance based on the amount. I've been in many churches in my life where they publish the names of the biggest donors every week from the previous week in their bulletin. And people who give the biggest offerings get positions and things like that in church. But that's just not how it works, because as a person walked up to me many years ago and said, "Pastor, you should do this for the biggest donors in the church." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't know who the biggest donors are." They said, "Sure, Pastor, just check the giving receipts." I said, "That doesn't show you who the biggest givers are." I said, "That shows you who gives the biggest amounts, but not who is the biggest giver. Because God doesn't count the amount. God counts the generosity." Remember the widow woman who gave the 2 copper coins. Now, with that in mind, I want you to notice a principle that Moses even taught the people of Israel during the law. He says in Deuteronomy 16, beginning with verse 9, "Count off 7 weeks from when you first began to cut the grain at the time of harvest. Then celebrate the feast of harvest to honor the Lord your God. Bring him a voluntary offering," principle number 1. Number 2, in proportion to the blessings, number 3, you have received from him. Deuteronomy 16, verse 16 and 17. "Each year, every man in Israel must celebrate these 3 festivals, the festival of the unleavened bread, the festival of harvest, and the festival of shelters. On each of these occasions, all men must appear before the Lord your God at the place he chooses. They must not appear before the Lord without a gift for him." Remember, it's all about honor, Malachi chapter 1. "All must give as they are able, according to the blessings given to them by the Lord." Now, I want you to notice some principles here of bringing an offering to God, because it's extremely important that we understand this. First of all, every offering is voluntary. Paul teaches us that you should never give under compulsion. Nowhere in Scripture does God force people to give anything. It has to be something that people want to do. So number 1, every offering must be voluntary. Otherwise, again, there's no honor in the gift. If you are forced to bring it, there is no honor being shown from your heart in the gift. So number 1 principle, every offering must be voluntary. Number 2, every offering is in proportion. Okay, in proportion, it says in verse 10, and then in verse 17, it says, according to the blessings. So in proportion, okay? Every offering is in proportion to how God has blessed you. For some people, to give 1,000,000 pesos is nothing because God has blessed them with 20. For some people, to give 1 peso is a big deal because they've only received 50. Now, brothers and sisters, you have to understand, God is not a taker. God is a giver. And you've got to get it into your heart that the bringing of an offering is always done in proportion. It's always done based on how God has blessed you. And then the third thing I want you to notice there is given to them by the Lord. Verse 10, you have received from him. Verse 17, given to him by the Lord. Paul says that this way in 2 Corinthians 9, verse 10, "For God is the one who provides seed to the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you." God gives seed to the sower. Now, King David understood this truth because when he brought the great generational offering at the end of his life, he said, "God, everything we gave, you first gave to us. Every offering we ever bring the Lord comes from what he has given us." So God is not a taker, ever. We give in proportion to what he has given us. So when it comes to your giving, never feel under pressure. And never go in debt to give. God never asks you to give by debt. That's why I don't like credit card giving. God has never asked you to go in debt to give. Okay, well, if you're believing God, use your credit card and go in debt to give. No. You'll never hear something like that taught at COP. God only says, from what I have already blessed you with, not from what you're looking for. You'll never hear me take an offering on, well, if you're asking God for 1 million pesos, then give God the tithe in advance. God never teaches that. It's what he has already given you that is a basis for the proportion that you make a decision to give from.